Welcome to a special edition of Mega Woody's Sports Show. And we're going to talk Chillicothe High School soccer today, and we have three guests in addition to Coach Tim Cunningham. We'll be visiting with Stephen Cooper, Alan Klein, and Trent Moore. So let's get right to it. And Stephen Cooper, I want to call you Steve. Does anybody ever call you Steve, or is it Stephen all the time?
It doesn't really matter.
So I better call you Stephen, hadn't I?
All right.
That's the real name, right?
Yes.
Well, Stephen, let's back up a little bit. And this was a big week for Chillicothe Soccer's program after a humiliating, if I might say, 11-0, wasn't it? Win against Lafayette.
It was 10-0.
10-0. Okay. Anyway, it was a wrong.
Yes.
Bottom line. And so you come out of that, and you're really feeling good about going to Smithville, right?
Yes.
And here you are with one loss, one tie in a season that's about 3/4 of the way through. So you go to Smithville and you're all hyped up and ready to go. Quickly, in the first half, correct me if I'm wrong now, Smithville gets 3 goals, right?
That is correct.
So tell me, Chillicothe was ready to play that match, right?
Yeah.
So what happened? I mean, did they do anything you didn't expect them to do? How did they get 3 goals in the first half and jump on you 3-0?
Well, it really wasn't any mental breakdowns. It was just they are a very talented team. 8 out of the last 9 years, they've been in the Final Four. So we knew going into this game that they were probably going to be one of our toughest matches this year. And they didn't really do anything we didn't expect. They just executed the plays very well. And they had a kid that they said scored his 100th goal in 4 years. So he was very talented, and they just came out. They came ready to play too.
Well, that's putting up a few, isn't it? 100 goals in 4 years.
That is.
That's kind of awesome. So, well, no question. And Smithville is a larger school, probably, if not the largest, next to the largest in the Midland Empire Conference, one that's going to continue to grow, and one that has a great athletic program and athletic facilities. I mean, their girls basketball, for instance, has been in the Final Four. You mentioned that about soccer the past 2 years. Their cross-country teams are always excellent, as is wrestling. So sports are big at Smithville overall in all 17, I guess it's 17 programs. So what you're saying, Chillicothe was ready. They were the better team that day. May be the better team tomorrow, but it might not be 4-1.
Exactly. We were talking about it. We didn't lose. We got beat. We played hard the whole 80 minutes. It's just they came out on top.
Well, you know, you look at the season so far. There was a tie, which probably shouldn't have been, but it still won you a tournament a little more than a week ago. And then, of course, there was the defeat to St. Paul's Lutheran in a shootout after being tied in regulation and in double overtime, right? Wasn't it 2 overtimes?
Yes.
And so, you know, there's a storied program, too, just like Smithville. So overall, you'd have to say, hey, so far, so good. Am I correct?
That is correct. We're improving every day, and we're just getting better.
Well, Stephen, thanks. I know you've been on a couple of other shows with us. We appreciate you taking time to be here today on the Mega Woody's special sports show. And we're going to slip over and talk to Alan Klein next. And so we'll switch chairs and switch microphones. Thanks a lot, and good luck the rest of the season.
Thank you.
Well, we're joined now by Alan Klein, and I'll probably ask you some of the same questions because I enjoy getting the opinions, and I know that they vary from the guys on the Chillicothe High School soccer team. But let's go back, and as I just said earlier, it's been a good season. You expected a tough game, and that's what it was. And as Stephen just did, he gave credit to Smithville and an outstanding program. I'm still startled by a guy that scores 100 goals in soccer in 4 years. That's almost unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And a lot of guys have trouble getting 10 in a season, and he gets 100, or he gets 100 in a career, and that averages out to a lot of seasons. So that's a good record.
Alan, let me ask you, do you agree with what Stephen said? You were prepared as well as you can be prepared Smithville's just an awful good soccer team.
Yeah, I believe that we were prepared just as well as we could have been. We didn't play bad. They played really good. And whenever we didn't play 100% the best, that's when they got their goals. And it just took, a couple seconds, and they put on some pretty good shots. And, it didn't go the best for us, but it was a good game.
I can't remember now off the top of my head. Was it about 17 minutes in that they got their first goal? You can probably handle that. But when you get bombarded in a game that you expect to be close against a very good soccer team,
Yeah.
and you're down 3-0 at halftime, it's a little deflating.
Oh yeah, it's shocking too, and we all go in pumped and all ready to go, and then halftime it's 3-0. It's hard to get through that.
What was the message during the halftime break from Coach Cunningham and the rest of your teammates?
We've been down at halftime before, and we've been down in games, I think maybe 3 or 4 times, and each time we've caught up and we've actually won the game. So we were all in it. We just talked about the things that we needed to work on better, and we're all positive and said, guys, let's get in this game. And it didn't turn out that well, but we all worked as hard as we could, and we did everything that we possibly could to try and win that game.
Well, you're back home to host Maryville, and then you have another home game, home match against St. Joseph Benton. But the season is down toward the tail end of it. 4 important MEC games. Mm-hmm. You win those, it's going to be a great season regardless of what happens in postseason. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree.
So, what do you think about Maryville, Savannah, Benton, and Cameron? Cameron, I understand, not bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they came out the first time we played them, and they're pretty good. They've improved a lot since the last time we played them, and at the beginning of the year we decided that they're one of the better teams that we played, so they're pretty good.
Well, Alan, we want to thank you again, like Stephen, for taking time to visit with us here on the Coaches Show. We want to wish you the best of luck the rest of the season. And in district, the nice thing about district, it's not at home, but it's not very far away.
Exactly, about 30 minutes away. So,
Alan Klein has been our second guest. We'll be back with our third and final soccer player, Trent Moore. So stay with us right after this break here on the Chillicothe Coaches Show, brought to you by Mega Woodies. Okay, we'll conclude this special Mega Woodies sports show here, bringing you Chillicothe High School soccer after one of the biggest matches of the season, and I say one of the biggest because there's been 2 or 3 of them, but this one was the MEC battle last Thursday night down at Smithville. Coach Tim Cunningham has now joined us here on the show, and Coach, you got to stand in while I was talking. I don't think you were here for Stephen Cooper, but you were here for Alan Klein and Trent Moore when I spoke with them. And let me go back to you. You and the coaching staff and the players, you worked hard. You were ready for this match. I've heard that from the guys. You went in as prepared as well as you could prepare. Was there anything early on, the fact that they got 3 goals in the first half, I got to ask you, did that surprise you?
Yeah, a little bit. They're so talented and explosive scoring. Anytime, as I heard you say, you have a guy that can score 100 goals in a career, you know that they've put it in the back of the net several times, and we knew that they could do that. What we were hoping for was a quick start by us, like we had done all season. And Coach Dumovic and I both thought that if we got off to a quick start, that it might rattle them, kind of get them on their heels. And we did that the first 15 minutes of the match. We really controlled the ball and put a ton of shots on goal. We had a lot of opportunities, and then they scored. And then when you give a team like that the confidence, like, okay, it's going to be okay tonight, we're fine. Then they score another one quickly after that. And one of my good friends, Coach Spinner from Lafayette, always says the third goal is the most important goal of the match. If it's 3-0, you know you're in trouble. If it's 2-1, you know you're right there on the doorstep of making it 2-2 and it's a ball game again. So for them to get that third goal right before halftime was a little deflating. But as Alan and Trent both said, the guys had a very positive attitude, and we came right back out and tried to be us the second half as well.
Well, like you've said, you can handle one goal. They came kind of like bananas in bunches there. And then when it's all in the first half, I mean, I think it was 17 minutes in that the first one came, and then 2 more before halftime. and it has to be depleting. Whether that, regardless, pick your sport, and if you're hyped up and you're ready, and the other team gets a jump on you, it's something to try to come back. And the guys have mentioned they came back ready to play in the second half, but without question, from what I've heard during the interviews, a very talented Smithville soccer team.
Yeah, they really are, and we were on the other side of the coin earlier in the week when we were at Lafayette, and we kind of jumped on them early, and we scored a bunch early, and I would say they handled it poorly. They kind of got down on themselves, and that kind of shows the character of our team was we weren't going to stop fighting, and we were going to keep playing and stick to our game plan and do kind of what we were able to do in that second half. But as Stephen mentioned, they're a quality team. They're Final Four every year seemingly, and they have a lot of talented players. And we knew that going in, that it was going to be a tough match. And I'm really proud of the way the guys fought, stayed together, and just kept fighting all the way to the end.
You mentioned Lafayette, Coach, and I got to ask you this question because that was a 10-0 route. There's not many 10-0 soccer matches, that end up 10-0 or 8-0. They're 1-0, 2-1, 3-2, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we had one last year where we were able to go 10-0 against Cameron, and then previously we had been on the short side of some 10-0s, but that's the second one where we were able to get the 10-0 victory, and it is rare, and it's kind of motivating for the guys. We scored early. We had 2 in the first 5 minutes, and then you could almost see it in their eyes, like, we're getting 10 tonight, and that was motivating for the guys. We had 6 at halftime. And we just talked about how we were going to finish the match, and they went out there and we did exactly what we needed to do, and we got our 4th one and the 10th one with about 20 minutes to play, and that's a pretty impressive performance.
And I think that maybe Lafayette had only won 2 matches, if I remember right.
Yeah.
And so it's like day and night. You did win 10-0. You beat Lafayette pretty good, but Lafayette's not Smithville.
Oh heavens, no, no, not at all. In fact, Smithville beat them 11-1 the next night.
They got thumped 21 goals.
Yeah, they gave up 21 in 2 nights. That's a lot of goals to give up. But no, they're totally 2 different programs, 2 different teams. But kind of the same idea when you were talking about scoring in bunches. It can have that effect in soccer where you give up 1, 2, 3, and then it's oh my goodness, and you just keep keeping them on. And that's what really was impressive about our guys last night.
I don't remember, one of the guys mentioned in the interviews today, you went to Maryville, and it wasn't easy up there. And when you look at the MEC and you think, Cameron's capable, Smithville, LeBlanc, Chillicothe, there's 4 or 5 teams that on a given night, on a given match, are pretty equal.
Yeah, they really are, and that's something that I talk to the guys a lot about how other teams do and what the scores are when they play. And more than once this season we've said, it just doesn't make sense. One team will beat a team that we think's pretty good, and then they'll turn around and lose to a team that we think, is solid, but maybe not at the level that we thought the other team was. Like Trent said, you got to bring it every night, and if you don't, somebody's going to jump up and get you that maybe you weren't expecting to, and that's really where your focus comes in and your character of your team, and we've got to make sure we've got that here down the stretch.
And rightly so important. The Smithville match is history. And now you got to look at your Final Four matches first. Then you got to look at district and postseason. And a lot of things can happen, good and bad, when you get to postseason play. So you want to go in with the right attitude. You want to go in definitely with a winning record. You have 2 at home and 2 on the road. Your assessment, Coach, of those 4.
Well, and one last thing on the Smithville match afterwards. We talked to the team and we just said, we don't celebrate our victories any longer than one night, and we're not going to dwell on one defeat any longer than one night. So it's right back to work, and we know what's coming up for us, and we've got to be prepared. All 4 of those teams are quality teams, and we've played them all, and they've all been very tough matches. Maryville was 4-2 at their place. We scored 2 early, and then was able to hang on. They actually tied us. Cameron was ahead of us late in the second half, and we put 2 in to beat them 3-2 at our place. Savannah was 3-0. We didn't play our best match, but we played well enough to win against them. They have 2 very talented players up top that can score some goals. And then Benton is just very scrappy. They've been kind of a down program, and they're getting some success this year, and they like it. And they're playing harder, and they're playing more aggressively, and that'll be another match where we have to be ready to play and have that focus and make sure that we're on top of our game.
I think this would be one good way, Coach, when I look at the schedule, four matches in 7